You're still muted. We can't hear you. We know you're speaking.
Awesome. Thank you, MJ. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. So my name is Emmanuel Itoje, and welcome to the Nigeria M365 community. Again, this year, I would like to say Happy New Year to everybody because this is officially our first session for this year. So thank you so much for everyone that followed us through our journey throughout last year in 2023. We really want to appreciate you so much for even joining us today. I can see new faces, new names. Alyssa G, thank you so much for joining. Michael, thank you for joining. So if you can help me in the chat. In the chat session, just tell me where you're joining from and what are your expectations for this session so that we can make this as interactive as possible. Thank you so much. And like I said, welcome to the Nigeria M365 community where we talk about everything you need to know about Office 365, enterprise mobility and security, and Windows 365. So we are happy to have you today. So a brief introduction about me. My name is Emmanuel Itoje. I'm actually a digital transformation professional in the cloud space and in infrastructure and productivity applications. I focus on enabling business use technologies to optimize organization strategies. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer and I have a couple of other Microsoft certifications as well. So thank you so much for joining. All right, we have some housekeeping rules which has been guiding us in the community. So this session is actually currently being recorded and it's been made available to us for future viewing. It's will be uploaded on our YouTube channel where you can have access and people that don't have time to join, they're busy, they will have the recording, they'll be able to view on our YouTube channel. Then if you're not talking, please kindly mute your mic when you're not talking. Then if you have questions that you want to ask, you can drop it in the chat. You can use the Q&A session. Then if there's any question that the speaker would like to answer, I'll call the attention of the speaker. So we have a Twitter handle at MGM365. So please do well to follow us. Then we have a LinkedIn page too as well, where we also share updates about our community programs and events. Please do well to follow us too. So our YouTube channel where we also drop all our videos, our recordings for all our events. So it's actually there. Please you can like, subscribe to our channel, comment on the videos, share ideas with us in the community as well. We'll be happy to have your ideas. Then we'll share a feedback form after the session. So if you have any feedback for us, how we can improve our sessions, our meetings, our meetups, we'll gladly appreciate those feedbacks. So thank you so much, everyone, once again for joining. So today we are having a special speaker with a special topic. So last day we are talking more of Office 365 from Microsoft 365, identity and access, Exchange Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, Microsoft Purview. So for this year, we've decided to have a monthly event, right? It's going to be monthly, a 2 hours deep dive session. So for today's, which is our first event for this year, 2024, we'll be looking into Windows 365 deep dive. And we have my namesake as a speaker today. So Emmanuel is actually a cloud productivity engineer with over 2 years experience, with passion driven by continuous learning and improvement in managing and deploying Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions. He's also a Microsoft certified trainer, a Microsoft 365 expert, and Azure solution architect. We're happy to have you today, Emmanuel. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're talking on mute, Emmanuel.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, from your experience with Windows 365, how do you think Windows 365 can help organizations? From your experience with Windows 365?
From my experience with Windows 365 can actually help organizations achieve more with less, which I'm going to talk about in my presentation, and I'm going to explain how it can help organizations achieve more, whereby when we have remote workers that want to work from different countries, provisioning laptops for them or maybe sending laptops might be a very big expenses for them. But with Windows 365, all they just need to do is to purchase a license, assign the license to the user, and once the user have the login, they can access the PC from any device in the cloud. So I'll
Awesome,
dwell
awesome,
deeply.
awesome. I'm looking forward to more in the session. So you can have the floor. I'll be going backstage now, so you can have the floor.
once more, I want to appreciate the M365 community organizers for giving me this privilege to share my idea on Windows 365. And I hope you learn from me and I'll learn from you as well, because I know M365 community is a community where we have experts and people that are actually good in M365. So we are actually going to learn from each other in this presentation. So first of all, I'm going to start with my agenda. So I've often been introduced by the moderator. I'm Emmanuel Oyinmafu. Let me just do an introduction of myself again, a cloud productivity engineer. So today, this is what I'm going to talk about. So first of all, I'm going to start with Microsoft Cloud PC solution options. I'm going to explain the two Microsoft Cloud PC solution options that we have. And I'm going to talk about Azure Virtual Desktop, which is part of the Microsoft Cloud PC solution options. Then I'm going to show a presentation, which today we are talking about Windows 365. But before we talk about Windows 365, I would like us to just get to know some things about Azure Virtual Desktop because it's part of Microsoft Cloud PC solution options that we have. Then we go into what is Windows 365. Then we will now talk about why Windows 365, which will bring us back to the question Emmanuel asked, that how can Windows 365 help organization achieve more, which I'm going to talk about. Then I'm now going to talk about Windows 365 solutions. So what are the solutions that Windows 365 is bringing to the table? I'm equally going to talk about how it can secure the new world of flexible work. We know Windows 365 is a solution that can enable flexible working for users and people that want to access company resources. And we are going to explore Windows 365. We are going to configure it in the core together, and we're going to administer Windows 365. So let me just jump to the beginning, the presentation. So now I'm going to start with talking about the two Microsoft Cloud PC solution options. So if you have any question, you can just drop on the chat. The moderator will call on my attention. So I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to give the floor open to the audience. So should in case you want to contribute or say something about it, you are free to add your own contribution. So now we're going to talk about Windows 365. So what's Windows 365? Windows 365 here is a complete software as a service solution designed by Microsoft. Software as a service meaning, let me bring it down like in a scenario that will that will make everybody understand it very well. Let's use software as a service as an hotel. So if you go to an hotel and lodge in an hotel, all you just need to go with is your clothes and your bag. You sleep, the hotel attendants do everything for you. They manage everything you need for you. So that's exactly what Windows 365 is. You don't manage infrastructure. It is a software as a service offering by Microsoft designed to help you access Windows desktop apps from any devices. So you can access it from any devices, be it tablets, be it desktop, be it from your mobile phone, you can access it. On the other hand, we have Azure Virtual Desktop. So Azure Virtual Desktop now is a platform as a service offering by Microsoft. When we say platform as a service, in the sense that, okay, let me use this scenario as a case study. Let's say you move into a service apartment. In that service apartment, for sure, they are going to give you AC. They are going to give you, maybe it depends on the one you go for. They are going to give you bed, but there are some things that they won't give you. They won't give you your bed sheet. You have to come with your bed sheet. You have to come with your soap, which if you go to an hotel, all those things will be provisioned for you. But in your service apartment, you have to bring all that. That's Azure Virtual Desktop. So the customer manage the infrastructure. Microsoft will give you the platform. So you manage it, you provision as many VMs that you want to provision, and you design the sections you want users to have access to. So these are the two Microsoft Cloud Solutions options that we have. So let's go to the next slide, which brings us to the differences between Windows 365 Cloud PC and Azure Virtual Desktop. So this is a very good one because first of all, we are going to talk about the OS support. So the OS that is supported here for Windows 365, it supports Windows 11 and Windows 10. So if you're having a PC that is running on Windows 11 or Windows 10, you can connect to your cloud PC anytime. And if you want to even deploy it from the plans, if you go to licensing, you are going to see that it's only Windows 10 and Windows 11 that you can purchase, depending on the spec you want. If you want a 2 vCPU system and maybe 8 GB RAM, you can actually purchase it, but it is only Windows 11 and Windows 10 that you can purchase for Windows 365 Cloud PC. While on the other hand, Azure Virtual Desktop. So Azure Virtual Desktop now gives you Windows 11, Windows 10, and also single and multi-sections. When we say multi-sections, what it basically means is that multiple users can log in to one machine at the same time. But for Windows 365, multiple users can't log in. Only single users can log in at a particular time. But on Azure Virtual Desktop, multiple users can log in at the same time, and it also supports Windows Server because you can deploy a Windows Server image for Azure Virtual Desktop. But for Windows 365, you can only install Windows 11 and Windows 10. So that's just one of the little difference we have from Microsoft 365 Cloud PC and Azure Virtual Desktop. So in terms of the administration, so the administration for Windows 365 is of the administration for Windows 365 is of two types because Windows 365 gives you business plan and enterprise plan. So if you are on a business plan and you want to manage it, you manage it from Microsoft 365 Admin Center and from Windows 365.microsoft.com website. So once you go to Windows 365.microsoft.com, you will see all the company own cloud PC. From there, you can click on the devices, restart, restore. But if you're on an enterprise plan, let's say you're an organization that is more than 300, you use Microsoft Intune, whereby you can even connect it to your Active Directory if you have an on-premise Active Directory, whereby you can provision machines in Microsoft Intune Admin Center, and those machines you can even delegate the OU in the AD where you want the computers to be, whereby once you just provision it, if you go to your organization unit in your Active Directory, you are going to see those PCs provisioned there. While on the other hand, Azure Virtual Desktop, it is managed in Azure Portal. So you manage Azure Virtual Desktop from Azure Portal. So now let's look at the services. So for services, like I made mention earlier, Windows 365 is a software as a service options. So it's complete. Microsoft manage it for you. You don't need to care about the on-premise infrastructure, which we are going to look at how virtual desktop infrastructure looks like. And we are going to see where Windows 365 come in to play and makes life easy for users. So now, on the other hand, Windows 3, on the other hand, Azure Virtual Desktop. So it is a platform as a service offering that gives you granular control over configurations and management. Let's use this scenario where Azure Virtual Desktop comes to play. Let's say, for instance, you have a company in the UK and you have staffs that works in India, and you have an application that you want the staffs to work with, but you don't want this application to be exposed on any devices, because if you expose an application to any devices, the users have administrative rights to their devices whereby they can install any software, and some of those software can have malware which can affect the functionality of the application or steal some details that you don't want to go out to the public. So basically, for you to achieve that, it's just for you to actually deploy a VM using Azure Virtual Desktop, then install the application in that VM, then create a group, assign the user to that group, then give them permission in the application group. Once they have permission to the application group, they should be able to log in through remote desktop section or from the web to the cloud, to the virtual desktop itself, so that they can work with the application that you want them to work with. While on the other hand, we have pricing. So for the pricing aspect, Windows 365 is per user per month. So when we say per user per month, once you assign the license to a user, whether the user uses it or he doesn't use it, you are being charged. So it's more or less like, as you are provisioning the license for the user, the first day you provision it, your expenses start counting. So you start calculating your costs in the deployment stage. So okay, how many am I deploying? How many licenses am I purchasing? Because the moment you assign it to user or you purchase that license, it starts reading. Why for Azure Virtual Desktop is similar, but it's consumption based. When we say consumption based, let's say for instance now, you create four VMs in your Azure Virtual Desktop. And maybe on Saturdays that we know, staffs don't work too much on Saturdays. We only have few workers that maybe have some pending tasks that they need to do and complete on Saturdays. So because of those workers, you can just leave one virtual machine on, which in that way you are saving. And if the virtual machine is not running, you are not spending anything. It's pay as you go. That's for Azure Virtual Desktop. Why the next one we have is end user. So in terms of end user, it gives you full Windows-like local experience, just like your local PC. Cloud PC is like your local PC. The only difference is you are accessing it in the cloud. That's just the difference here. Why in terms of Azure Virtual Desktop, it's a single and multi, it's you can create it for a singular use and you can create it for multiple users, whereby these users can pool the resources and you created like in form of a pool where pool of users can access one machine depending on the section you allow. That's let's see now, let's look at Azure Virtual Desktop before we dive into Windows 365. So for Azure Virtual Desktop now, like it is managed in Azure, it is managed in Azure environment. So it is a desktop app, like name goes, Azure Virtual Desktop. So it gives you access to virtualize Windows 11 and Windows 10 desktop. That's just basically what it is. It is managed in Azure portal. We can see from the picture on the screen, we can see we can see, let's just come here. We can see the host pools. We can see the application group I was talking about, whereby you assign permission to group of users so that they can have access to the Azure Virtual Desktop. You can see the workspace, which we are going to even look at creating it, but we are not actually going to create it because this training is about Windows 365, but we just want to talk about Azure Virtual Desktop because it's part of Microsoft Cloud PC offering. Another one is Azure Virtual Desktop. It helps you maintain full control, like the scenario I give, whereby you have an application that you don't want users to just have access to. You can just create your virtual desktop, install the application on it, assign users permissions to the Azure Virtual Desktop, then they log in via remote desktop and they work. And this can meet employees' need while maintaining control over configuration and management, because configuration management is very important. If you don't manage your configuration very well, it reduces productivity because the time you spend in trying to manage all these things incur costs. Let's check. So now we are going to look at Azure Virtual Desktop. So it is more or less like pay as you go. It is pay for only what you use. So basically, if it's running, you're paying. If it is stopped, you are not paying. So it's good. That's why organizations have to sit down and check. Okay, we have Azure Virtual Desktop, we have Windows 365. Which one is suitable that can meet our need? So we are going to talk about Windows 365. So let's just see to the next. So now this brings us back to a visual live architecture show. So I'm going to show a visual a visual diagram that talks about what we want to do. So this is the diagram on the screen. Let me make it large so that we all can view it. So if it's very visible, Emmanuel, can you let me know so I can make it smaller? Is it okay this way?
Yes, I think it's for me. Okay, I can see it. Probably maybe
Okay,
you close the side, I think the side bar where you have
okay,
the selection. Yeah, so that's all this. Yeah, I think so. Fine, thank
okay,
you.
okay. Thank you. So basically, we're talking about Azure Virtual Desktop as a platform as a service offering. So basically, from this from here, from where we have Azure Cloud and VM login. So Microsoft, actually, this is a platform given to you by Microsoft, whereby you have your virtual network. On your virtual network, you create subnets. Inside your subnet, you can now deploy your virtual desktop. So once you deploy your virtual desktop in that subnet, then you can now have access to create host pools. So in this host pools, we're saying that you can scale up and you can scale down as the case may be, but you specify the VM size. So the VM size you specify determine the cost you pay. So if you use a high VM size, or maybe you are running high memory optimized workloads, it's going to incur more cost for you. And we also have application groups. So we can see the communication between application group and users. So this guy now is someone that need access to this virtual desktop. But for this guy to have access to this virtual desktop, he needs to have permission to a group. He needs to be a member of a group that has permission in the application group so that he can access this virtual desktop via remote desktop or from the internet. And again, you can, in the creation, if there are two options, either you use Active Directory or Microsoft Entra ID, which if you select Microsoft Entra ID, is going to like work with your Microsoft 365 tenants. You can pick users and you work with users, and those users in your tenants, you can give them access the from the directory management that Microsoft 365 brings in using Microsoft Entra ID rather than Active Directory. So in this demonstration, or in this pictorial diagram, it's just like you don't have an Active Directory. You're using everything you have is in the cloud. You have your users as cloud only users. They are in the cloud, basically. So this is just what I want to do. So I would like to still go to Azure Portal so that we can just see these settings on how to create a virtual desktop. So let me just switch to Azure Portal. Let me go from here. I think I have it open here. Let me just go from here. So this is Azure Portal basically. So all I just need to do from Azure Portal is to search for Azure Virtual Desktop, which is the first on the screen. So first of all, for me to even start with first, I need to create a host pool. So let me just start by creating a host pool. So let's start by creating a host pool. So now, first of all, like even from the presentation, let me go back to the presentation. One of the prerequisites is you need to have an Azure account with an active subscription, which I do have. I do have a subscription. Let me come back to my presentation, which I do have a subscription, which is my subscription. Then I'm now going to pick a resource group, which I've already created earlier, which I gave it AVDRG. So I've selected that. So now I'm going to give my host pool a name. So let me just give it M365 Unit C. So that's the name of my host pool. So the region I'm going to specify, I'm going to use West Europe because West Europe is closer to us here in Nigeria. So I'm going to use West Europe. Then the preferred app group type. So this app group type you select plays a very great role. So if you select remote app, your users are going to just have access it like a remote app. But if you use desktop, it's better because it gives them a desktop experience of the Azure Virtual Desktop. So now we are going to now select the host pool type. Okay, this is where we're talking about that. It can give you access to personal or pool. When we talk about pool, it now gives you options for load balancing, which you can go for depth first, and maximum users per section. So like as I was saying, that in Azure Virtual Desktop, multiple people can log in at the same time to a machine. So this is where you define it. You can say maximum section limit. Okay, let me say 5. Once I specify 5, now it means 5 people have access to that Azure Virtual Desktop per time. So let's go down to the creation of virtual machine. So now it is not enough to just create the pool. You need to still create a virtual machine too that the users will have access to. So we are going to see now add a virtual machine. Yes, I'm going to say yes. The resource group is already selected and I'm going to give it a name prefix. Let me just say M365. Yeah, it took it. Good. So now the virtual machine type, I'm going to select Azure Virtual Machine rather. So let's go to virtual machine location. So I'm going to go with the location I picked in creating the host pool, which is West Europe. So picking West Europe, now availability zone. So if I want copies of my VMs to be stored in different regions, then I can go for availability zone. But I just want, since it's a lab, I prefer it to just be in the single availability zone. And so you can decide to enable secure boot, and you can decide to enable virtual TPM that gives you access to Windows Hello for Business, secure sign-in to the virtual desktop. So when we talk about imaging now, you can see what we're talking about, that you can create Windows 10 Enterprise, you can create Windows 11 Enterprise, you can even create it with the latest version. So here, let's see the one we are going to pick. Let's just select the latest version, Windows 11 Enterprise Multi-Section 23H2. So now the size, like on my visual diagram that I picked a size, but the size I picked, the size you pick determine the cost. So I'll go for this standard D2SB3, then numbers of VMs. So in this situation, I don't want to load balance multiple VMs. It's just a presentation. I'll just go for one. Then in terms of the OSD type, so all this incur cost. So me, I'll just rather go for standard HDD. So I don't spend much. Then I go for the default size. So you can decide to enable both diagnostics, which is good and helps in time in troubleshooting. Now, we now talk about the network and security. For network and security now, you have to have created a virtual network. So let's pick one of the virtual network I have in my environment, which is Azure. I'm picking this virtual network, but let me see. Yes, I've picked it. And I'm going to go with the default, the subnets, and I'm going to leave it the network security group 2 basic. So now, like as I was explaining that you can either decide the domain that it will join. So basically from here now, we have two options, either Active Directory or Microsoft Entra ID. In my visual presentation, I picked Microsoft Entra ID, which I'm going to go with Microsoft Entra ID because in this scenario, I don't want to use Active Directory presentation, because if I use Active Directory, there are going to be a lot of connections. There have to be a connection from Azure to my sites, depending on where my Active Directory is located. If it's fully on-prem, there have to be some networking configurations, and which I don't have, I'm not in that scenario. So now I can decide, okay, do I want to enroll with Intune or I don't want to enroll with Intune? So I can just say yes or no. Let me just go with yes. So now I'm not going to name the virtual machine. This name you are giving it is basically for administrative purpose. So whenever maybe you want to deploy those applications that you want to deploy, you can log in with this administrator's account and deploy it. Let me just give it my name. Okay, speak it. Let me give it the password. And okay, repeat the same thing. Yeah, good. Okay, it's correct. So now configuration slip. So this is actually good if you want to do automated deployment. So you can download the ARM template and use it to create custom extensions. But in this scenario, we don't want to do it. So next, you create a workspace. You can decide to create a workspace now, or after creating the virtual desktop, you create it. Let's just say yes. Let's create new. Let's just say M365. Did it go? Okay, yeah. Let's click OK. This is the workspace we are going to use. Then we can review and create. So, so basically, with what I explained in Azure environment here, is just basically what I have on this visual diagram, which for sure, if the deployment completes, we'll have access to application group, and from application group, we can assign permission to a security group created in Microsoft Entra ID and give those users access to the security group as members. So that's what we have for Azure Virtual Desktop. Does anybody have a question before I move into the topic of the day? Does anybody have any question, or I can just proceed? Does anybody have a question? Or is there any question in the chat?
Emmanuel, you can go
Hello,
ahead.
can
No
you hear me?
question. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I can hear
Solomon,
you.
go ahead.
Yeah, I
Okay,
can hear
for
you.
the virtual desktop, that's the
Yeah,
AVD.
yeah,
I know we have multi-session, like you said, and the cloud PC, we are assigning it to a single user. So
yeah.
I don't know if you can just throw more light on how the AVDs would handle profile, user
Okay,
profiles. Yeah.
okay. That's a very brilliant question and a very, very interesting question to answer. So for handling user profile now, it just works like Windows Server. So whenever you log into a Windows server, let's say you have an Active Directory whereby you have different administrators logging into a Windows server. So once you want to log in, so you log in basically using remote desktop. So if you have a remote desktop license, basically everybody, once you have a remote desktop license, depending on the numbers, maybe the license can permit more than 5. So more than 5 people can log in at the same time. But if you don't have a remote desktop license, sometimes you may want to log in, you discover that 2 people are already signed in. It will give you an option to throw one person out. So it can manage multiple sections. So depending on the sections you put, if you put 5 users, so those 5 users can log in at the same time working. So it's manage their profile the same time, whereby just like the way Windows Server work, because I can be logged in on the same domain controller. My manager can be logged in on the same domain controller, working seamlessly, doing different tasks. I believe that's the orchestration behind Azure Virtual Desktop, how you can have different people can work similarly. So anybody can still contribute to that. So I don't know if I answered the question or someone else want to contribute to the answer.
Okay, can I contribute to the answer?
Yeah, you can. Thank you. You can.
Okay. So the profile I mean is, once you log into a computer, you create
Yeah.
a profile, and if you save your files, your file will be stored to that profile. And
Yeah.
once you're putting your AVD on, you're putting it on a load balancer, you're not assigning it to a single person. That means if the first virtual machine, that's the session host, you say 3 people per session host. If the first session host is filled up, and that was the last PC I connected to as a user, that means I'll be going to the second session host, which is the VM. Now, the first time I was in the first session host and I created my files, I dropped them there, and now I'm going to the next session host. So what would probably happen at that time is that I will have my files in the first session host, which is the first VM, and now I am
Yes.
going to be creating a new profile in the second VM. So what I just wanted to throw light on is, since it is multi-session, there's what we call FS logic. So what
Okay.
FS logic does, it would create a VDIX, that's like a virtual DIX, for every user. So once that user moves from different session hosts, that VDIX will just be following the user. So once you connect to a virtual machine, the next thing your virtual machine will do, it will go to check for your virtual DIX. And once it finds it, it attaches it to the current session host you're in. That's the current virtual machine you're in. And then you can see all your files. So that's just the part I want to just throw light on, because if it is multi-section, it's just basically going to be creating different profiles on the virtual machines, and users will be losing their files if they go to another machine. So I think that's just the part I just wanted to add, um, throw more light on.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your contribution. And really, if the profiles are not well managed, then it's going to cause conflicts. That's a nice contribution. Does anybody want to say something about it, or we should just continue to the next stage of the presentation? So, Mr. Emmanuel, can I continue, or you want to add something to?
Yeah, man, you can go ahead and continue. So in the
Okay.
chat, MG drop some link in the chats in case people need the link for more information on FX logic that someone is talking about.
Okay. Let's move to the topic of the day, Cloud PC, and well, now Windows. We are now in the topic of the day, which is what is Windows 365. So Windows 365 basically, when you are talking about Windows 365, you're talking about Cloud PC. Then where is this Cloud PC being managed? It is managed in Windows 365. So that's the relationship between Cloud PC and Windows 365. That Cloud PC itself is sitting on Windows 365. That is why, as a user, if you want to log into your Cloud PC and you want to log in online, you can go to www.windows365.microsoft.com. So from there, you can easily access your cloud PC and work with it. So it's a cloud-based service that automatically creates Windows virtual machines for users. So how does it work? As be it an organization that wants to go into using Cloud PC, all they just need to do is to purchase the license. So it comes in 2 offerings. We have business and we have enterprise. So depending, if the business is less than 300, they can go for the business plan. If they are more than 300, they can go for the enterprise plan. So that's basically that. So this is just what Windows 365 is. It's a cloud-based service that automatically creates a new type of Windows virtual machine. So you can access it from any device. So this has more features in terms of the cloud world. It has more features because you can access it from tablet, you can access it from basically any device. Basically, it is highly available, highly optimized. Like you can use it very well. Let's just go. So now this brings us to a very good question. Like Mr. Emmanuel asked me at the beginning of the presentation, it was like, why Windows 365? So Windows 365 can actually help you manage more with less. How can you manage more with less? Let's use this scenario now, like the scenario I gave. Let's say, for instance, let's even use Nigeria as a case study. Let's say you have a company in Lagos and you are into data and you got a contract in Port Harcourt and you need users to work, to use maybe Teams, SharePoint to communicate and talk to each other. And you don't want them to use their personal system to actually do that, because using their personal system, it can lead to information leak and a lot of things. So basically, what you can do in this scenario is to just, like, let's say, purchase a license depending on the numbers of users you have. Then give them access to assign the license to them. Once you assign the license to them, they can actually log in. They can log into the cloud PC from any device, either from desktop, from tablet, from iOS devices. You can log in to access your cloud PC. So in terms of the world of remote work, it's actually a good solution, like most especially for freelancers, people that work at the comfort of their home. It gives them that leverage to access company resources anytime, any day, just with their username and password. And if there are security features that is imbibed by the organization, such as multi-factor authentication or conditional access, that will ask the user to sign in with a second authentication. So they can actually do that to go. So now, another reason again is, let's look at this picture on the diagram. So why Windows 365? So you can be productive on any device. Let's say you are a government official. You're actually going out to visit your users who maybe you're working in a government agency that handle tax, and you want to go out to view people that are actually owing tax. So you can go with any device. You can go with your tablet. From your tablet, you can access your PC and check and tell the user. You can evaluate everything you need to evaluate and tell the user, okay, this is what you need to pay, this is what you use. You can share light with the customer. You don't need to go with your laptop. So you can do it on any devices. You can be productive. Like, you don't need to have that clear of taking your laptops to anywhere. So in terms of public sectors and employees, so it gives them access to work remotely, even with their own personal devices. Let's go. Now, streamlined operation. So it gives you streamlined operation. Let's use a scenario where you want to provision like 20 PCs at the same time. That is that's a whole lot of stress on an administrator, because you have to deploy the applications, install a lot of things for the user, for the user, depending on the department. Some of the staffs may be in marketing, some may be in sales, some may be in accounts, and they don't use the same application basically. So you have to work on each of them depending on the application used by that department. But with Windows 365, you can actually do streamline operations whereby once you assign the license to the user, then the user have access to the cloud PC. And if you are using an enterprise plan, you can equally do custom images, whereby you can create custom image for departments as the case may be, so that you don't stress yourself. You can just apply the custom image to the provisioning policy that you have created, so that users of that department, once they have the license, they can log in and have access to their cloud PC. Now, Windows 365 solution, what can it bring? So it gives you access to bring your own device. People that can benefit from bring your own devices are, one, flexible and remote workers. Flexible and remote workers are people like the example I gave, freelancers, people that work at the comfort of their home, that needs to access resources from any device and work and be creative and productive to do effectively the tasks that they are being assigned to do. Then another use case is temporary and seasonal workers. When we say temporary and seasonal workers are like people that work for a short period of time. Like let's say, for instance, you have a contract that happens maybe once in a year. And that once in a year is for a specific month, for a specific period of the year, like maybe October to December. So if it's happening October to December, basically, if you purchase hardware like computer hardware, like purchase different systems, it should just be lying without doing anything because those users don't work all through the year. They only work part time. So with Windows 365, all you just need to do is just provision a you just buy a license, then assign the license to the users. Then the users can log in and access their cloud PC and work with all the security and policies you have put in place to actually protect the data that are in the cloud PC. And other people that benefit from this bring your own devices are students, interns, and trainees. So students, of course, in organizations, it depends on your course. If it's a 4 years course or 5 years course, you spend 4 years in the institution and you leave. So in that situation, with a cloud PC, you can just assign a license to the user so that once the user is graduating, you can withdraw the license and assign it to another person. Or better still, it even saves the institution from buying multiple systems and assigning to the user. But although it's something that they need to calculate very well because that's a whole lot of expenses which companies need to look into it. Then we now have interns. So companies that take interns, like maybe those that are on sideways, like they want to come in and just stay for 2 months or 6 months. So you can provision a Windows 365 and ask the student to bring their system. So that once they bring their system, they can actually log in and have access to their cloud PC in the web. Then we now have trainees. So for trainees, like maybe new people that just joined the organization that you are not even sure. Maybe like you just want to put them on a probation period for like 6 months or 8 months. So you trying to invest, maybe like buying confiscated soft laptops for them so that they can work effectively. You can say, let me just provision a Windows 365 license for these users since they are just on trial period. So we're just watching them to see if they can meet up with the training and all and effectively work. So those categories of users can benefit from bring your own device. So those users now that I made mention of, once you give them access to once you assign license to them and you give them access to a cloud PC, they can actually log in and access company resources and applications and work effectively for the short time that they have to work and be more productive as the case may be. Now, another thing we'll look and put into consideration is data security. So data security now is something that we need to look at because there need to be protective measures designed to protect those cloud PCs, the files in it from unauthorized access, from misuse, because these people are actually flexible. They can go anywhere, they can work from anywhere. So implementing data security is very important, and which Windows 365 gives you good and effective security offerings because it works with compliance admin centers. With compliance admin center, you can actually create policies. You can create policies. You can assign tags to documents. Retention. You can assign retention labels to documents. You can create data loss prevention policies to prevent users from sending unauthorized files outside the cloud PC in general. Let's see more. Now, we are now looking at secure the new world of flexible work. See this young man here is actually in his kitchen, is working. So all these things are what we need to secure. So someone can go to a restaurant and work from there. So it's very important we employ security and compliance policies to all these cloud pieces, and which is actually there. It is secured. So once you configure it and you deploy these security features, it enables your users to work over the internet, and you won't have fear that maybe someone is sending your information out to people that don't need to have access to it. Now we will now look at for temporary and seasonal workers. So for temporary and seasonal workers here now, like I made mention, temporary and seasonal workers fall under people that work for a short period of time too. So people that work for a short period of time are people that you need to even fear more, because they can just come over a short while and just go, and you don't know where they are going to. Maybe they are going to maybe a company that does the same business that you do, and they can go there and maybe share your ideas and all, because they're actually bringing their own device. So with data loss, strong data security practices, it can help you prevent all this from happening. They won't be able to share or transfer or use any sensitive data outside your jurisdiction or what you don't want to do. The next one we have here is students. So for students, we need to secure the new world of flexible work. So we know students, interns, and trainee, like I made mention of before. So these people chat and communicate. So if you're not careful, a student can just actually just maybe share things with people outside. So it's very important the access is moderated, because if you're having access to corporate applications, you need to moderate the access so that there won't be misuse of those resources. Now let's look into Windows 365 in general. So like I made mention earlier, which I'm going to explain in the demo, it has two editions, Windows 365 Business and Windows 365 Enterprise. So for Windows 365 Business, it is meant for smaller companies, like companies that are not more than 300. So they can actually use Windows 365 Business, use Windows 365 Business Plan to actually achieve their aim. So this one doesn't have licensing requirements, meaning that you can just create a user in Active Directory. Once you create a user in Microsoft Entra ID, once you create a user in Microsoft Entra ID, then you can just assign the license to the user, which is the Windows 365 license. Once you assign the license to the user, once the user sign in with the username and password, you have access to the cloud PC and work. So it has no dependency on Azure or Active Directory. So it has no dependency. So you can work seamlessly. You can just perform your tasks, which we are going to do, and I'm going to explain that in the demo. So for Windows 365 Enterprise, so we are not going to talk much about this Windows 365 Enterprise. But we're going to share some knowledge about it in the slide. But our focus is going to be on Windows 365 Business, because in the demo, we're actually using a trial version of Windows 365 Business. So in my developers tenants, I don't even have access to actually get the trial version because it's not there. So I had to use a live environment so I can actually purchase the trial version. So for enterprise now, it is for larger companies. So companies that use Active Directory for authentication, or they have users that are synced from on-prem to Office 365, this solution can work for them. So it includes options to create custom image. Like I made mention earlier, you can create custom image based on the custom device image. Like maybe for instance, now you have users in different departments. You can create custom image per department so that once users are coming into that department, you can assign those image to their provisioning policies so that once once they have access to the group that have assignment to that provisioning policy, they can actually work. So now let's look at other options here. Now, this is Windows 365 Admin Center. Like I made mention in the beginning when I was comparing Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop, you can manage Windows 365 from Microsoft Intune. That is when you're on the enterprise plan. But if you're on the business plan, you can't manage it from Microsoft Intune. You can only manage it from Microsoft 365 Admin Center and Windows.365.microsoft.com. So here we go. So in Intune, all you just need is you go to you go to devices. Once you go to devices, you under provisioning, you can see under devices, you see Windows 365. Once you select Windows 365, you can see all the options you can actually explore from there. You can see everything you can explore. So you can create provisioning policies. Once you click on create provisioning policies, you can actually select the operating system that you want. If it's Windows 10 or Windows 11, you can select it. If you want to do a custom image, you can actually it gives you the option to create a custom image. So these are the ways you can do it. First of all, you have to assign license to the users. Then you can create a Azure network connections. So this Azure network connection comes in when maybe you have an on-premise AD that you want to that you want to have an handshake with Windows 365 devices managed in Microsoft Intune. So you can use this Azure network connection to create VPNs that can establish that connection so that once you provision a cloud PC, it shows in an OU in the Active Directory. So once you go to that OU, you see the PCs, you can manage it using group policies. You can do a lot of things, but that's for enterprise. Then we now have, you can create provisioning policies. So it is this provisioning policies that you even create that gives you the leverage to create the PCs, the cloud PCs. Then you can configure and apply device app profiles. So you can do all that. So once we get to the demo, we are going to actually delve into it. So now administering Windows 365. So there are some things we can do. So cloud PC management, let's not go too far. It's just like our normal devices that we have, just like your normal PCs. So of course, we know in our normal PCs, we can restart, we can rename, we can do quick scan, we can do full scan, and we can update our Windows Defender for endpoint. So that's basically what you can still do. So these actions, you can do them to troubleshoot. Maybe you are trying to log into your PC and it's not coming up. You can actually use all these options. You can restart, you can perform a full scan to bring it up. So for cloud PC unique actions, all these ones are unique because you can reprovision. It gives you access to reprovisioning, it gives you access to resizing, and it gives you access to collecting diagnostics during troubleshooting. When you want to troubleshoot, you can collect diagnostic, you can reprovision, and you can resize, as the case may be. So let's go to the practice and in the lab section. So before we go into the lab, I would like to know if anybody have a question, so we can just talk about the question while we go to the lab section. So does anybody have a question? Hello.
You have a question, you can just raise your hands, okay? Opoyemi, you can go for it.
Good afternoon. I actually enjoying this section, but I'm just wondering the licensing, although I don't know whether we are still going to get to the cost in terms of the licensing, but looking at it, and I'm wondering, my question is like in twofold. The cost of using Windows 365 and the cost of acquiring the hardware itself. Do we say Windows 365 is cheaper than for a company to acquire the hardware? You know, for some company, if you purchase an hardware, you may have a lifespan of like 5 years and all those things. So if you calculate the license of Windows 365, let's say for a period of, let's even say the end of life of that system is going to be like 5 years. Are we saying that it's cheaper than acquiring the hardware itself? That is one. Then secondly, for some organization that the security is so important, so you are logging to your Windows or your desktop from a public domain because you are going to be using your system, you are going to be using a public internet and some of those things. Will you say that is secure? Because you know, for some companies, they have a desktop, they have the Windows, and they have network managers too that work on firewall, work on so many things just to secure their end. But in this case, you only have a desktop on the cloud. What of you are logging on from a public network. So what will you advise comparing those two key factors? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Thank you very much for that question. Before I answer, does anybody have any other questions? So we can see if there's relationship between the two questions. So the community, we can contribute, so everybody can contribute to the answers to the question. Does anybody have any other question before we go? Okay. So with the silence, it means no one have any other question. So thank you very much for that question. So the first one you asked, basically, that's why when I was explaining I was like, companies need to look into it, like before they go into it. Like the scenario you give, whereby a staff coming into a system, a company, and a company gets a laptop, it can last for 5 years. That's true. That's true. That's true about it. There's no doubt about that. But okay, let's take for instance now, you have workers that need to work for you just for 1 month, maybe temporary workers that just need to work for you for just 1 month. In that case, for you to purchase like maybe like 300 workers, or let's use Nigerian government as example. Let's say for instance during the election, they want staffs, they want people, all these agents that work on polling units to actually have access to PCs. For them to buy laptops for like 1,000 people or more than 1,000 people will be a much load for them, because at the end of the day, after the election, they can just throw the laptop away and nobody uses it. But with Windows 365 now, if they can imbibe this solution, all they just need to do, all the users that have access to it, they can just provision a license for them and give them access to the PC after the election is off. Then that's for that. Then for temporary workers now, maybe workers that you know that they can just come and they don't need to spend more time with the company, which they need to be a total cost calculation. So there need to be a calculation to balance it, because you can't just go and spend and be paying, let's say, because it is not consumption based, it is per user based. Once you buy the license and you assign it to the user, you are being charged automatically. So as soon as you buy the license, you are incurring expenses immediately. So it's something that you need to consider. Okay, the users you're actually provisioning the license for, what is the spam? Are they going to spend more time in the organization? And what are their numbers? If their numbers are much, like up to 500 or more, depending, maybe for exercises like that, maybe you just have a contract and you just need to do it in a short time. Windows 365 can solve. But in terms of company-wide operation, like the one you made mention of, whereby you have like 2 or 3 staffs coming in, like the other method, like buying laptops, can go in that way, because since laptops can last for like 5 years. So that's why companies need to sit down, analyze, and calculate. That's why even Microsoft themselves, they give you 2 options. Either you go for Azure Virtual Desktop or you go for Windows 365. So the one that works for you, you can actually do it. So I don't know if I answered your first question, or if anybody wants to contribute to it before we go to the second question. So the house is open for contributions to the answer to the first question. So
So
Mr.
can I?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can. Go ahead.
Okay. So regarding the cost of getting a new PC, so I happen to work somewhere where I actually use a cloud PC, not So the idea is, you know, we are in the generation where people work from different places. And even if probably you're in the same country, the company would probably have different branches. If you're looking at hardware, and now that people just change jobs as well, I think he mentioned that earlier too, you would notice that when we are talking of hardware and also assigning computers to people, it is not just even, giving them this computer. Sometimes the transferring of computer, saying, okay, this person is working in this state, we have to pick this computer, ship it to this person, make sure we are, deprovisioning it, removing the person's profile, and then sending it to another user. Sometimes that involves like a lot of work and tax. And if we're looking at the cloud PC, in sense of we have remote workers, we know that we are locking down everything that we want them to access. Like the one I use, I know he has explained it, but there are a lot of more security things you can actually do on the cloud PC, that you can lock it down in such a way that you just want users to access it with the identity. And once they access it with the identity, they are using exactly what you want them to do. And once they are done with it, you can just, shut it down and probably transfer the license to someone else that will probably need it. And if you look at it in the long term, depending on the use case also, because use case is also very important when you're doing all of this. If you look at it in the long term, I think you will discover you're saving costs because some of these your remote workers, they actually have their computers that they are using before joining your organization. So you probably buying a computer for them, you're probably like going to be getting like 2 laptops and probably saying, hey, I'm shipping this laptop to you. Once it gets there, you need to set it up, but you don't need to go through all those hassles. You just need to say, okay, download this application on your computer and sign in with your username and password. Once they sign in with their username and password, they are up for work. So with that, I think is actually something you can, most organization can embrace. And when they embrace it, if the use case actually fits into their requirements, they will just go ahead with the licensing.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Solomon, for that contribution. I've really picked a lot of things from it. Another person is raising up his hand. Mr. Emmanuel, can you just speak on?
All right. Kwame, I believe what Emmanuel and Solomon explained pretty much answers some of the questions. So I, for one, I worked remotely since 2021, and I'm using my own personal system. But the organization just needs to send me an email, like Solomon explained, download these applications. Once you download this application, you can connect to your remote. So I don't need to do the stress of, downloading tools on the system, on your personal system, because everything, the administrator, the organizations are already provisioned everything on the Windows PC for me. In terms of security, I cannot access any third party. Okay, this company is a Microsoft company. So any third party site, I cannot access it because of the security. And this is constantly being monitored on the Microsoft Intune by the administrator. So this actually makes it actually easier for, like Mano said, for freelancers, right? It is easy for you to employ freelancers. You don't have to worry about, buying a new PC, sending it to them, or having, even though you are even using a Windows Autopilot, to set up all those systems, it's still a big job. But with the cloud PC, you already configured, you have a configuration profile with everything, the application that they should have access to. Then any sites that you don't want them to have access to, maybe social media and all that, everything has been configured in terms of the endpoint security. So there are a lot of security too that you can actually configure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel. Thank you, Mr. Solomon. I've really learned a lot from your contributions. I believe the questions has been answered in 2 questions you asked. So do you still have more, or you need clarity on any area so we can just share? Okay, okay, I can see a hand raised up. You can ask your question, Ma.
Good afternoon. I'm really enjoying the session. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and every single person that has contributed. So I think the 2 questions that were asked have actually been answered. But I just wanted to maybe throw a little bit of more light. So we've talked about in terms of security, in terms of cost, we're not overspending, or because it's a short period of time. Like somebody said, now he's been working remotely from since 2021 and he's been using his own personal PC. So if you understand how thin clients work, so you can have also some environment where they have some form of compliance requirement that says users are actually allowed to maybe work from home, or even while they're in the office, they are not allowed to go home with their PC or with companies' resources. So you want, there's a compliance that say everything the user is doing must at every point in time remain within the company's infrastructure, remain within the company's building, remain within the company's data center, and cannot go out. So in this case, if you know how the thin clients work, thin client has a server, like a central server, or you have some PCs that are more like empty, they're just empty cases or empty boxes. Once you want to use them, once you power them on, they must always contact the server to download a copy of an operating system and all the applications that you need. They download it to that machine and you are able to use it. The moment you sign out and log out or shut down that machine, it releases every resources that it has pulled over for you to work with. So the same way is how this the Windows 365 work. So apart from maybe the cost aspect of it, is also something that you are sure that your data is always secure, is safe at every point in time. And apart from that, so you also look at the case of BYOD. BYOD is also as a result of we don't want to spend much money, or we want users to be able to work from the devices that they are more comfortable with. So when you were talking about the other time, you ask about, will it be better to buy a laptop and then you devices and then you are maintaining that devices for 5 years? Know that within the 5 years, you are still going to be upgrading the operating system on that machine. So for Windows 365, no upgrade is required. You are always have all up to date. That's always updated operating system is what you have at your own disposal. So at some point, you still have some form of operating cost, which with Windows 365, that capital, yes, the CAPEX cost is still there. So, but with Windows 365, that CAPEX cost is being spread. Not that it's not there, but it's being spread over 5 years as against you spending it in 1 year. And then in 5 years' time, you have to buy another set of hardware to meet the newer operating system that cannot work on those 5 years ago PC. So I just said, let me add that extra. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, Ma. I've really seen it from another view. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, Ma.
Okay,
Does
so I
anybody?
don't want
Okay,
to, sorry, I don't
okay.
want to dwell so much on it because I see a lot of people have spoken, but let me ask Opeyemi. I think for me, the first thing you need to do is more around probably maybe do a cost analysis that is going to be beneficial for your own organization if that's the route you want to go. Your cost analysis and then the benefits analysis also will help you. Now, even when Titi was talking, I think as she was talking, it dawned on me also that you can buy that system for 5 years. What about the damages they are prone to? What about theft that they can also be prone to? Now, you've invested an upfront of a good PC today with any kind of compute resources that you want to put there that you feel you will want to have a very good experience. You will not be spending anything less than, if I am right with that dollar rate, anything less than 500 if you're, I mean, even if it is a 8 or 16 gigs, something around that. So you want to weigh all of that. And if you also look at the area of people that you're not certain about, even if you bring them into your organization and in the next 6 months they're still on probation, and then you don't know whether they're going to stay or not, and you've invested in hardware and they leave. As they leave, if they were on Windows 365, I can actually remove that license and assign it to another set of people. I mean, it's you like I said, the use case, we inform the cost analysis, we cost also your business requirement, we involve a lot of things. So I feel that it is for you to sit down and then weigh all of those options, and then you can come at a more informed decision. And around security, I used to tell people that security is a relative discussion, because you can tell me that just like you have a concern that what if they're getting it from an internet, is it secured? Are you sure that the one you have on premise is also secured? So it's, for me, I always say it is relative. It's something that you have to come up with. What are your security strategy in whether you're on cloud or whether you have anything on premise? Do you have a good risk management or mitigation plan that you've put in place that in that way you know that you can actually call it up and then use it? So I know for Windows 365, to give you a level of comfort, really, I know that data in it in Windows 365 is always encrypted, whether it is at rest or whether it is in transit. You have that one for almost all of the Microsoft solution. Now, again, just like they said, you can apply a lot of security conditional access is what you can put in place. You can specify where people that are coming from, or what level of which location they are connecting from. You can have those level flexibility around security to be put in place. You can put conditional access to say even when people connect, and then maybe you want them to put a set of multi-factor authentication, and then you've seen that even with apart from the second level of authentication you have today, you have things like passwordless, which also is another way that you don't even need to put password or even need. But now those are new technologies or features that you find that are infused into these solutions that Microsoft is bringing out. So in a short sentence for me, or probably let me just say in summary for me, I think what you need to do, like I said, weigh the cost. Don't, maybe because everybody is talking, this is Windows 365 and all of that, the use scenario may be different. At the end of the day, if you started the session earlier, probably maybe the Azure AD, the virtual desktop, the Azure virtual desktop may even be a better scenario for you than Windows 365. Or you weigh the three options. So can I be on Windows 365? Can I be on Azure VD, or probably I maintain on-premise? Cost analysis is what I feel would be more appropriate for you to do against your use cases, your business requirement, and then maybe things around risk and security requirements. So you put all of that, and you can make an informed decision. So I just want to add that a bit. Manuel, I think we've taken a lot of session. I think you can go on. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you, Ma. I like the way the section is interactive. I like the lights. Thank you very much, Ma. Thanks for that enhanced knowledge. Thank you very much, Ma, for that. So we are moving to the demo section now. So you can just start. So let me share the screen where I have the. Okay. So now, first of all, I want to start afresh. So let me just go to office.com. So we can just go from the beginning. So I'll click on the 9 ellipses, then go to Admin Center, so I can have access to Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So from Microsoft 365 Admin Center now, all we are concerned about here for the initial start is billing. So let me go to billing. From billing, I just need to go to purchase service. So once it loads, we'll now go to, just wait for it to load. Takes a while. Now, what we are concerned about in terms of the category, they have made everything easy for us. So it's just for us to select the category we want. And the category we want here is Windows 365. So we just select Windows 365. So now that we have Windows 365 selected, we can see the two plans we have, or the two editions, which is Windows 365 Enterprise and Windows 365 Business. So these are the costs. For Enterprise, is $28 per month, while for the times of the front line is $42 per month. For this front line, what it just basically does is, maybe for instance, you are working in a health sector where nurses work. We have nurses that work in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. So basically, these nurses, you can provision one cloud PC for them, assign the license to them. When the one in the morning shift leaves and the one in the afternoon shift come, they can log into the same PC, but all of them can log in at the same time. It will just be one user per time. That's just this front line, if you get a frontline license. So it provides a non-concurrent cloud PC access for any 3 employees per license. 3 people can share one license and use it. So, but in our scenario now, we are doing business, because the trial I have is for business. So if you want to purchase it, once you come into Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you go to billing. From billing, you go to purchase service. From purchase service, you select from the options Windows 365. Then if you're going for business or you're going for enterprise, you select any of them. So now that we have selected business plan, we'll now pick the particular specification we want, which if you want to go and buy a system, you have to know if you're buying 4 vCPU, how many gig RAM, what is the hard disk size. You can just go for anyone that suits you. So once you select it, then you pay for it. If you are going for 2 or 5 people, you select it and you buy. So that's all. So in this tenant, I don't have the license. Let me go to a tenant where I have the license. So basically now let's confirm that we have the license. Let me go to the admin center. Then on in the admin center, I will just go to licenses. So from licensing now, I can see I already have Windows 365 Business, 2 vCPU, 8 gig, and 128 gig RAM, which is the first requirement. The first requirement is to get a license, whether a business or an enterprise license. Since we are using a business license, we can only manage it from Microsoft 365 Admin Center or from windows365.microsoft.com. Those are the two places we can manage it. So since the license is already here, I've already assigned it to a test user. Let me just go to active users so we can confirm that the license has been assigned to a test user. So once we click on licensing and apps, under licensing and app, we can see that Windows 365 business license has been assigned to this test user. So let's confirm if the device has been provisioned. So in terms of the provisioning process, after assigning the license to the users, once you come to devices, if it is still provisioning, you will see it here that machine is provisioning. So these are the options you can do as an admin. You can restart the PC for the user. You can reset the PC. Note, when you are resetting the PC, it's going to reinstall the operating system. Like it's going to reinstall the operating system, but files that are backed up to OneDrive are secured, which we know those ones are already in the cloud, which is something that we need to put in. But files that are stored locally will be gone once you reset the computer. So you can do a restore. You can create restore points. Should in case maybe the system now start misbehaving, you can restore to previous operating system. So you can rename it, you can resize it. But although this one is still in preview, so you can resize. Okay, this user is complaining that the system is now very slow. It's now very slow. Like you can just come here, just like the way if a staff in your organization is complaining that the system is slow, they can say, okay, maybe your manager can say, check how many gig RAM. Is it 8 gig RAM? Let us increase it to 16 gig RAM. Once you increase it to 16 gig RAM and the person is still complaining, and say, okay, check the storage. Okay, can we increase it to 512 gig? So depending, so that's still the same thing that you can do. You can resize and all from here. So another thing again that you can do is you can change account type. So for this test user now, the account type is standard, meaning that the user is only allowed to install software from Microsoft Store. You can't install software outside Microsoft Store. But let's say in our scenario, this test user is a developer and I want him to be able to download softwares without my authorization. I can just give him access to local admin so that anytime he wants to download any software, he will have access to, but it is not best practice because it can download softwares that are vulnerable to malware. And meanwhile, once you install those software, it can damage your operating system in general. So I'll leave it as default. I won't change it. So those are the management features that you can do. Okay, now that these licenses have been assigned to this test user, so let us confirm that this guy can log into his PC. But before he logs into his PC, like I made mention earlier, you can manage a, a company's cloud PC from Microsoft 365 Admin Center and from Windows 365 Admin Center. I'm logged into this environment. I don't have a cloud PC license assigned to me, but I can still see this cloud PC and work on it. So let me just go to Windows. Okay, it's already there. So let's wait while it loads. So it will show. So now all these are users in my organization, but the only person that has Microsoft 365 Windows 365 license is this test user. So all I just need to do is to go to devices. So the same settings I was able to do from Microsoft 365 Admin Center, I can do the same settings from Windows 365 Admin Center for this user because I'm an admin. I have access to Windows 3. I'm a Windows 365 administrator, so I can have access to do all this stuff. So let's jump into logging into the cloud PC online for this test user. So before we go, let me just copy the username so we can just log in seamlessly. So let's test now. Let's see if it's actually Okay, let me use this browser. Let me use this one. Okay. Let me just open a private window. Okay. So for you to access the cloud PC on the cloud, you just need to go to Windows 365.microsoft.com. So once we open it, we can now log in with the username. So the person that has the license is test user. So let me just log in with test user 1. Let me just log in with user 1, then put the password. Sign in. Then yes. So wait for it to load. Once it loads, we'll see the cloud PC. So now this is the cloud PC. Once you log in, you can have access to the cloud PC directly online. So if you click on these three vertical lines here, you see the settings that users can do. A user can restart his cloud PC, a user can reset, a user can restore, and can rename. So these are the privileges that users have. So if I want to log into this cloud PC now online, I'll just click on open in browser. Once I click on open in browser, it will give me some options to select some features that I want it to have access to. So it's now telling me select the devices or features your cloud PC can use. You can use the printer that is deployed to your local PC. You can use clipboard, you can use camera. So depending on what you want. So if you check camera, what it means is that if you're on a meeting in that cloud PC, once you on your camera, it uses the camera of the hardware of your system. So let's connect. So once we connect now, we'll see the cloud PC pops up. Then another thing we can do, we'll still access it using remote desktop client. We'll see how we can still access it using remote desktop client by just subscribing to it. So now it's asking me to put password again, which I'm going to do. Okay. Let me just click sign in. So while it loads. So this is our cloud PC. So you can sign into it. If I click on Teams now, because I have a business premium license assigned to me, I can just click on, if I open it now, it has already picked the username that I used to sign in. Then if I go to Outlook, the same thing. It has already picked it has created a Outlook profile for me, and I can be able to send and receive mails. So that is basically how to access it on the cloud. Now let's look at how to access it on remote desktop client. Let me just exit full screen. Let me go back here. So if we want to use it, first of all, we have to click on this remote desktop client here. Once we click on it, it now gives us options like we saw in the presentation. We can actually connect it to several devices. You can connect it to Microsoft Remote Desktop for Mac, Remote Desktop for Android, Remote Desktop for iOS, and Remote Desktop for Windows. So all we just need is this subscription URL. So all I just need to do, in my PC, I've already installed Remote Desktop. All I just need to do is to get subscription URL. So once I copy it, if you have not installed Remote Desktop, you can just download it. You can just click here to download Remote Desktop. Once you download it, then you can go ahead to subscribe. But since I've already downloaded it, let me just open it from my system. Okay, it has opened. Let's wait while it loads. So now that it has loads, so all we just need to do to connect it, we click on add. Once we click on add, we select workspace. So it asks us for email or workspace URL, but I prefer using the workspace URL than email. So once it loads, we will now subscribe. So once you subscribe to it, it asks us for, now it's saying that look like the connection of one service. Okay, let's troubleshoot it. Let me do something from here. Let me go back here so we can actually restart it from here. Restart. So we can access it via remote desktop, but let's restart it first so that once it finishes loading, we can go ahead to log in via remote desktop. So let's wait while it restarts. So if you have any question, you can ask while we are doing the demo of logging in through remote desktop lines. So if you have any question, you can unmute and ask your question. Yeah. So like from here now, we can see the specifications we selected. So it's a V2, it has 2 CPU, 8 GB RAM, then the storage is 128 gig. So it's still restarting. So once it finishes restarting, we'll now try to connect to it. So Mr. Emmanuel, hope I'm not running past my time. So because we're almost at the end. Am I still on time?
Yeah, you're still on time. You still have 30 minutes, yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's try to connect again. Give feedback. Add workspace connection URL. Okay, it has been restarted. So let me just use the clipboard. Okay, it's not here. So let me go and copy the URL again. So back here, copy. So let's try this time. Let's see. Else we troubleshoot. Let's try again. You can contact your help desk admin. Okay. Let's see something. Okay. Can we do something? Maybe I drop the connection URL on the chat so someone else can try to connect. Mr. Emmanuel, do you have remote desktop client on your system so I can connection URL on your chat so you can try to connect to it via remote desktop?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Let me just drop it on the chat. So you just share your screen while you give me control. So let me drop it on the chat because it's complaining about my PC. So let's try another system. Let's see.
Okay.
So while you're trying that, have you heard of the Windows app?
Yeah. We can use the Windows app. Okay, should we try
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Okay,
that
let me
should give
download
you
it.
like the same view as you want to see. And that subscribe URL, I think it works mostly with AVDs. I've not really tried it with M365 though, but I'm very sure that works with AVD. So Emmanuel can just try it from his end
Yeah,
and see if it goes.
it even worked. It worked this. I tried it this afternoon. It worked. Yes,
Oh, okay, great.
it
Oh,
works.
So yeah, so I think for me it's the internet. I think it's you're
uh,
just having yes, I think it's just your internet speed that is the problem. I know
so
you
okay,
can
someone
still
else have connected.
Okay, so
okay,
let me just
Emmanuel has
drop.
connected.
Let me
Emmanuel has
drop
No,
the.
connected.
I haven't connected yet. This was the old piece I have. This is the old
Oh,
one I have.
that's okay, okay. Is that
He
a
has not.
screenshot?
He has not
Oh,
connected. He has a cloud. It's like he has a cloud PC. So
I
let me
had
just
one
oh,
before. Yes.
let me drop
Maybe
the
unsubscribe.
let me drop it on the chat.
Okay.
Okay, I've dropped it on the chat already.
All right, let me get it. Oh, I think this one, the way this one works. So we use the account name. Let me give you control so you can sign in with the account name.
Okay, that's good.
Can you request for control? I'm not sure if I can even share control with you.
Okay, hold on. Let me just see. Yeah, I can take control. It seems you have given me, but it's graded out. It's graded, so I can't request
Yeah,
for control. But
it's
let
from
me
the
just,
policy.
yeah, just put in, since it's giving you access to email address, let me drop the email address. So let's see if it goes past the email address.
Okay.
Let me drop the email address on the chat. Okay, good. I've dropped it on the chat. So just put in the email address. Let's.
Okay.
Okay. So this is where the issue is, giving you the password now.
Let me try this. Let me try this. Subscribe with URL. Let me use the URL.
Okay, use the URL.
Okay, let's try. Oh, still bringing it back to
Yeah,
using another
yeah,
password.
yeah. You have to put login with the email address and
Type
password.
the email address he sent to you. Let's see.
Type the
It
email
might just
address.
ask you for a password, and if the password is for a test user, I can probably DM you the password.
Okay, let me DM you the password so that you can
Okay.
just try it. I've sent it. So you can just log in. Let's see.
Okay. All right. So
Okay.
we are in.
So
Let
it picked
me.
it. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
double click.
Okay. Let me put the password again. So for Windows 365, single sign-on is actually enabled. So it's automatically signing to Microsoft Teams, Outlook, any of your Office applications. In fact, if you launch your maybe Microsoft Edge, for example, it's also automatically signing as well. So we are in already.
Okay, so we have logged into the. So let's try using Windows 365 desktop app, like Mr. Solomon suggested.
All right. Let me stop sharing my screen. So
Okay. Let me try downloading it. Okay. Let me go to Windows Store on my system so I can search for it. I don't think. Okay. Let me just download it. So I'm downloading it. Windows. Let me move it to the screen.
So for clarity's sake, Emmanuel, you have to go to the Microsoft Store, right?
We can download it online and we can still download it from the Microsoft Store.
if you use the online link, won't it take you to the back to the store?
Yeah, it will. So there are some links that you can download online. Some will take you back to the store. So they will just give you access to download the. But most of the links takes you back to the store. Most of them
Okay.
takes you back to the store. So once it downloads, it's just the same process. Sign in. Once we sign in with our email and password, automatically we get access to the PC still on a desktop app, just like remote desktop. So that's just basically what it does. So we are still open for questions while it downloads. Anybody that have question can just ask. Anybody with question? So
since I'm currently subscribed on my hand, would you be able to subscribe on your hand? Unless I unsubscribe here.
Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's see what it will do. But logging in through Windows 365, we don't even need to subscribe. It's just to put in the email address and it will sign in. It's only when we want to use remote desktop, but with Windows 365, it will just go. Let me open the app. Let's explore. Let's
So
explore it.
Emmanuel, that would be you're trying to create like a multiple session. It's only when you're probably logged in, he
Yeah,
would
it
kick you
will.
out.
Yeah, it will
It will
kick him
probably,
out.
yeah,
It
it
will
will
kick.
show
It will
you
kick
that.
him. It will kick him out, but he can still be subscribed on the system.
Yes.
So
So
one other thing is, I think for me, I want to ask this question, and I want us to contribute to it. If like Emmanuel like has this is scenario now, Emmanuel Itoje, because there are two Emmanuel here, so we have to differentiate. Emmanuel Itoje was logged on. He has a cloud PC already, and then he brought in this one. I mean, the one that Emmanuel Oyinmafu gave him. So can we? Because I see that you also subscribe. It's not possible for you to have multiple cloud PC, Emmanuel. Because I saw that you first had to unsubscribe for the from your first cloud PC before you enter. I just wanted to ask,
Okay,
except I
it's
missed
actually
it.
possible. No, it's possible to have multiple PC. The reason why I unsubscribe is I don't actually have access to that account again, so there's no need for me keeping it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So because I mean the possibility, thank you for that. So because the possibility is that if Emmanuel is a freelancer and then he's working in 5 different companies and that's what they are using.
I can
So
subscribe
the
to
only thing
anything.
is that you cannot
You
only
can
I
only
just
work
have to
for
have
one
multiple
person.
screens. I just have to have multiple screens. And not
yes.
because I've tried it before that I was on 2 different projects with the same remote desktop. So I had to get two other screens. So once I log into this, I put it on one screen. I log into the other remote desktop, I put it on the other screen.
But you can only have one Windows PC per tenant. That's only another thing I want us to.
Yes.
You can only
Yes, per
have one,
tenant.
yes, because you can only have one per tenant. So if company A gives you Windows 365 PC, company gives you Windows 365 PC also, you can log in. You can have like a multiple Windows 365 cloud PC to yourself as long as it's per tenant that you have it. All right. I think for me, thank you so much. I have to rush. I have another session I have to be in. Thank you so much. It's been a very how will I put it? A very interesting session for me. So I need to drop off now.
thank you,
All
ma.
right.
Thank you, ma.
All right then. Bye everyone. Yes,
Bye.
enjoy the rest of the session. Yes, bye.
Bye, ma. It seems, Mr. Emmanuel, it seems you share your screen and try to install the Windows 365 app on your system because I can't sign in here from my end. So, or Mr. Solomon, can you help us? Can
I
you help
think
us
it's
with
your,
that?
yeah, I
Yeah,
can. I think
there
it's
are
your
policies.
internet.
Yeah, there are
The internet actually.
yeah. Okay. So please just help me.
Okay, let me share my screen right now.
Okay.
I guess you can see my screen. Let me just
Yes,
minimize it.
I can see
So
your
I'm just
screen.
going to open this. It's already installed. Okay, let me use another one. Okay, the email is in the chat, right? Let me just pick the email.
Let me send you the password.
Okay.
Or Mr. Emmanuel, can you send the password to him?
Yeah, let me copy and send to you.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess it's probably your network that was doing it because even the
He didn't even
remote,
bring out the sign in.
yeah. And for the remote, this is like the first time I'm actually even thinking of using the remote for Windows this thing.
365.
For yeah, not like I use this. I know this came out pretty new, but this is what I've always felt comfortable with, and the web. So, but for the AVDs, I know I use the
Remote
AVD
desktop.
itself. You know, there's a Azure Virtual Desktop app that is
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
Play Store. So I just use that for the AVDs. Emmanuel,
Okay.
did you send me that?
Yes, you have the password in your DM.
Okay, just to be sure, please let me. I don't know if Teams is behind my screen. Just give me a minute. Let me let me be sure that I am in the right account. Okay, I just switched to the account. Okay, I will just share my screen now again. I've seen it. So I guess you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I will just paste this and then boom. So I can just keep this, and so I'll just hit connect back here again.
Okay. We are
Yeah.
in again. So we have tested. We can use Windows 365 clients and we can use remote desktop client to actually connect. Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon. So does
Yeah.
anybody have any questions so that we can just, so all discussion, you have a contribution, you can contribute. Can contribute.
So for me, I would just say if you have the opportunity to use this, it's actually very fast because I use one, and in terms of your internet speed inside the remote desktop, I mean, it is actually like very smooth when you're using it for work. So most of
It's
my
lightweight, actually. Yeah.
yeah, and just like Titi Lope said earlier, if you get like a 10th, or we have 14 gen, and if you get like a 14 gen computer, as you're going on, you probably start hearing, we are not supporting this, we are not supporting this. You don't have to be thinking about
Hello?
all of it. So
Hello?
that's hello,
Hi,
Mr.
Mr.
Popola.
Popola.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can.
Yeah,
you.
good evening. All right.
good evening.
Thank you so much. I have worked with a company in abroad before, and that was first time I was introduced to CPC, that is a cloud PC. And in my induction program, I was took around how I can connect to that back end, making use of this cloud PC. But I was never in the know that there could have been some other options, like making use of remote desktop, making use of these, Windows app. It was when Emmanuel mentioned there is something like Windows app that I also got to know for the first time. So you guys are making impact. For the purpose of saying it, I just have to acknowledge the values that this process is adding to some of us that we are on and off on the platform.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Popola. Thank you so much. So to speak to what you said, the reason why that particular partner is not using Windows app, there was a kind of a restriction, a kind of a configuration on the remote desktop that he configured. Even the remote desktop at one point, because I joined up saw the partner at the point they even specify the type of remote desktop to even use because of compatibility and a lot of security configuration that they've done. So that's why they can't ask us to actually use the Windows app. That's why they are particular about that. It's based on their security configurations. Yeah.
Do you even know, Emmanuel, that there are a lot of settings they will ask you to off from your system?
Exactly. Firewalls and a lot of other stuffs. They will ask
So
you.
Yes,
to
so
turn
many
on
things.
us.
Because they will tell you by the time you are working with them, the laptop is not yours, but for them.
Yes. You want to monitor everything.
Yeah.
So you just
There are
have to be
Thank
a
you.
lot of
compliant.
things. There are a lot of things you have to do, like a 5-page documentation on things to turn off, things to enable, things to disable, in terms of the password, also password complexity and a lot of stuff on the computer management as well. On your own computer, not on their own PC. So it was so a
Yeah,
lot of security concerns.
they will take you through the MDM, that is device manager. That
Yes,
okay, all these are not part of our configuration setting. Are you ready to off them? If not, you can use this PC to work with them.
you can because the two specialist guys are they use the hinting to manage those devices. So they check
Yeah,
all
Intune.
those
Yeah, that
compliance.
is that's
They check
MDM. Yeah.
yes, they check those
Mm.
compliance stuffs
Yeah.
at the end.
Yes, yes, yes.
Once you're not compliant, you get an email that your device is not compliant to use it. And after some time, they can block you out.
They are off the market already if they are not compliant.
Thank you so much for your contributions. If you have more contributions, guys, we still have about 9 more minutes to the end of the session. So if you have more things you want to contribute, your experience with Windows 365, you've used it before, if it's something that you get to try to, adopt, suggest to your team, right? Because I'm already seeing a use case whereby I need to actually suggest this to my organizations for us to actually look into, especially areas where we have contract staffs that we don't actually give our companies laptops to. We can actually suggest these options for them to just have organization resources instead of using the virtual desktop infrastructure. This is a better alternative.
But for me, for some reason, I don't know, depending on the use case though, I somehow have fallen in love with working with AVDs, and once the FS logic is properly configured, because that can actually be a work on its own. So I think somehow I fell in love with like dealing with FS logic, multiple users can just, log in. The cost is not that much, and but you know, you can still achieve your goals. They can work. If maybe there is an issue, you can easily just go look at it and then troubleshoot and you're off. So, and for some reason as well, I can as well just back up users file. Like if maybe a user is actually moving to another device, or somehow we need to get files from the user's computer, you can just, go to the FS Logic, pick up the particular user's disks, copy the files out, paste it in the server, move it wherever you want. So for some reason, I enjoy, although I used, personally, I use the Windows 365 PC, but based on the use case, AVD is also still like a very good device that you can use.
I actually agree with you on that. I was actually mentioning the VMware Horizon that they use.
Oh,
So if the
okay.
VMware, yes, not the AVD. Of course, I'll prefer to use AVD than to use a VMware Horizon, because a lot of times you just find out that the connection server is not reachable. And once connection server is not reachable, you working internally using the organization network, you can connect, right? But the contractors, the consultants that are using their personal network, because the connection server is down, there's even no way to even monitor it. Except if the maybe the IP of the connection server has been added to the solar wings to monitor it. Most of the times, even the connection server, the host itself, can have a big issue that even the compute teams will be like, what is happening? But with AVD Windows 365, it is actually a better management solution for
Yeah,
administrators.
yeah. Like actually, like I'll say the best for
It's
now
the
for
best
me.
because the Horizon has a lot of moving parts. Talk about the gateway servers, talk about the servers, connection server, talk about the Horizon server itself. A lot of so if any issue happen on that platform, you have to start checking. Okay, is it problem with the connection server, pinging the IP, or with the gateway servers and all that?
But
No.
this is all-in-one solution that it's very easy to manage.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, over to you. If you have any last note that you want to share with us before we call it a day today.
Okay. Yeah, I like the way the section is very interactive, and I want to appreciate everybody for contributing, like Mr. Pupola, Mr. Solomon, Mr. Emmanuel, MJ, Madam Titi, and all. So I really appreciate everyone for joining the event, and I'm happy. I'm happy that I was able to share ideas and I was able to learn too. I was able to learn a lot of things. So I'm really happy. And that's all I have. And thanks once more for joining. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. So the recording should be ready before the end of by Tuesday, Wednesday, March, and it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel in case you want to revisit these and you want to share with others that could not join the sessions. We'll work on the recordings and it will be made available to everyone. Thank you so much for joining and enjoy your weekend. Bye for
Yeah.
now.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Emmanuel.